Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for the ANA eLearning Academy. We're so happy that you could all be here. Thanks to all of our presenters for all the work that they have put into making these presentations happen. If you come up with any questions during this presentation, feel free to use either the chat feature or the Q&A feature here in Zoom. The questions will come to me, and then I'll share them with Phil at the end of the presentation. If more questions come in that we can answer, then I'll be sending them to Phil so he can answer them as well. Phil has also offered his time to do an open and live Q&A after this presentation, so I'll share that link for that presentation and live talk after he talks today. And after the presentation, I will be sending out a poll here in Zoom. If you could just take that survey, it'll help us to improve these webinars in the future. So without anything else getting in the way, let's turn this over to Phil. He's going to talk on creating a great club newsletter. Enjoy.
Well, welcome everybody. Thank you very much for tuning in. I'm Phil Vitale. I'm the editor of the Pocket Change. I'm sort of proud of my little publication. And I'm from the Albuquerque Coin Club, if you haven't guessed by now. We're going to talk to you about a bunch of things, a whole bunch of stuff, but I wanted to touch on why am I doing this presentation. I've been fortunate in the last couple of years for coming in second in the club publications. I'll talk more about that later. And I always get emails and calls from different clubs who want to know what I'm doing and why and how, et cetera, et cetera. So I thought it might be interesting to talk about newsletters in general. It's not covered in the publication course. And I want to emphasize that there is no formula. Each club is different and they have different needs. So what I'm going to tell you is for application to meet your needs. It's not a formula that you should have to follow. So with that, let me talk about, before we get started on the fine points, what do you want your newsletter to do? It's important that you know what your objectives are. So I've categorized these objectives into three things: to inform people, to educate your membership, and perhaps a little bit of marketing. And we'll explore each of these things coming up. So inform is pretty straightforward, I think. Report on club activities. Picnics, shows, displays, whatever, accomplishments, people getting awards, etc. I don't recommend meeting minutes and auction lists as part of your newsletters because they take up valuable research, valuable real estate. And I, in particular, take an auction list and put them as a separate insert into the newsletter. Provide club information. It's important that people know who the officers are, what the meeting time is, what the formats, what to expect. And obviously a calendar of events for shows, seminars, speakers, who's doing what, when, and how. Well, here's a page from one of my issues last year on the club picnic. By the way, people like to see their faces. They want to see their pictures on there. I always encourage people to print pictures. But anyway, inform. What's doing the club picnic? This is the back page that we have all the time, and it has the club address, the mail, where we have our meetings, what time, etc., what the agenda is, and who our board of directors are, etc. And you know, some people say, well, I don't want to put all that information out there, so don't. This is what I do that presents this to the world, and I'll talk more about it's important in marketing. So educate. Numismatic related articles. So we're going to talk about, well, where do you get those articles from? Educational opportunities. I was at the National Money Show in Pittsburgh last year, and one of the guys from the local club stopped by, and he said, and I talked about the summer seminar, and he said, well, what's that? I said, doesn't your club talk about the different seminars and symposiums and show presentations? And he said, no. And I think it was a crying shame that they didn't know. So we need to educate people on what the opportunities are. And if you have presentations at your meetings, which many clubs do, provide a summary. Don't try and recreate the whole presentation, but provide a summary of what was talked about so people know. Every month we have at least one member article. This one happens to be 3 parts. I never knew how many lighthouses were on coins around the world, but now I do. But pictures, and one of our members provided us with information. He's a smart guy, and he knows all about lighthouse coins. So marketing, you know, it's amazing. When I go to a show, I bring a stack of black and white newsletters with me, and people pick them up and they go through them and they say, hey, you know, this is pretty interesting. When we have our coin shows in Albuquerque, I have a stack of them on the table as people go in if they're interested. And I always sign up a dozen or more new people at a coin show. I also believe, and this is personal, that as members of the ANA, we should support the ANA, and we should put little blurbs about summer seminar, national shows, etc., what the benefits are. So we have a little section in my newsletter that says ANA News. Here's just a little blurb I put in about the summer seminars, scholarship applications. You know, people need to know because, you know, like most people, we're not going out and checking the website every day and trying to figure this out. So I give them little blurbs to help them. I want to highlight something here. This is a newsletter from the Phoenix Coin Club. It looks nice. It is primarily used to report on the minutes of the meetings and what the business are and what their shows are, etc. This is perfectly great. It is a nice looking little newsletter that talks about what they're doing, and that's their thing, and that makes it great. Okay, you don't have to have all the other stuff in there. This fits for them, and it's terrific. Okay, so let's talk about content a little bit. I have to say that one of the toughest things I do is soliciting articles from members and others. This takes an inordinate amount of effort to get people to cough up articles and make the newsletter special. I also have my club officers submit regular features, my ANA rep and secretary and treasurer, etc. They always have a little piece of the action, so to speak. It's really important for you editors out there, newsletter editors, to retain the right to edit. I've had people say, oh, I'm going to give you an article, but you can't change a word. And I said, no, Joe, you need to understand. I have space constraints. I have to make corrections. You know, sometimes things aren't too clear. And I have to tell you the truth. Some of our members almost appear to write in a different language than English, and you have to transform what they write into for real sentences. So, okay, that's the opening part. What you want to do, obviously, is create an attractive package that people want to read. Okay, if they don't want to read it, we've lost. So one of the most important things right off the bat is format. You want to have a clean, repeatable section breaks in your layout. I recommend one font all the way through. You can do different different titles in different pieces, and use colors. You know, it's unfortunate that a lot of people just go black and white and don't do it. Uh, Colors get your attention and your interest, and it's important for you and for the people reading what you're doing. So this is the gold standard for format. My friend David Heinrich is the grand champion at newsletter format, pictures, etc. He does a terrific job all the time, and he's beat me for the last 2 years for first place. And I can't hate him because he does such a terrific job. But he does good colors, good layout, everything neat and tidy. This is the type of thing you want to strive for. Okay, colors. I was going to talk about, oh, the coronavirus, man, it's killing us here, but we'll come back again. But if you put a picture of the phoenix rising from the flames, it gets everybody's attention right away. They're drawn directly to the front page of your newsletter. So this is a good newsletter. The Augusta Coin Club does a nice job, and they have all of the pieces that I've talked about. They need to format, or should I say, I suggest that they format better, that they break this up and divide it so the things that you see follow in an order, and they're easy to read. We'll talk about software in a minute that'll help them immensely. Oh, so here's one. It's not a great article, but it's a little presentation that one of our guys did about the euro turning 20, and you can, you know, having pictures makes all the difference in the world. So I don't know about you guys, but I'm an engineer, and the spelling gene was misplaced in my makeup. So it's tough sometimes, and I don't spell very well, and occasionally I use the wrong word. And, not normally punctuation, but one of the things I always got to tell people is beware of autocorrection. The computer thinks it's smarter than you are, and it always wants to help you. Be careful. It will do things to you that you will regret later. Always get someone else to proofread your stuff. My wife is the most nitpicky spelling and punctuation person that I've ever met, and she does me a terrific job. So get somebody else to look at your stuff before you put it out so you don't embarrass yourself. Software, yes. So for all of you out there, most of you have either a publisher or PageMaker as part of your software package. And if you don't, I suggest that you get one. It's not very expensive. It adds flexibility to your layout and allows you to do stuff that you just can't do with Word or WordPerfect or whatever. Photo editing software lets you adjust your photos to your needs. You don't need fancy stuff. You don't need expensive stuff. I use Photoshop Elements for almost all of the things I do with my newsletter. You don't, you know, and if you can get away with it, actually, Windows 10 has a photo editing software, really, really simple. that will let you do almost anything you need. So the one thing that I would also recommend that's sort of important, at least important to me, is PDF editing software. It allows you to extract pictures and infos from documents that come to you as PDFs. There are maybe at least a half a dozen programs out there that I know of that range from $50 to $75, and it really makes a difference. I would strongly recommend that you use photo editing software to do whatever it is. Photos, PDFs, publishing, all those three things. So I use let me go back. So I use Publisher. It's a nice program. Most of the people I know in the business use Publisher. It lets you do whatever you want with your pages. You can put in little text boxes, bubbles, notes on the bottom, pictures of people. So I strongly recommend it. Your layout suffers if you are just trying to do Word. Pictures always say 1,000 words. I used to try and take my own pictures of coins to put them in, and then I found out that it's much easier to get non-copyrighted protected pictures of coins and notes from the internet. It's faster, easier, and you don't get in trouble doing it. Always put pictures of people, authors, and the people you're talking about in your articles. People like to see pictures of themselves and pictures of who you're talking about. I did an informal survey. Well, I'll talk about that in a minute. So try and place your photos near your text that you're talking about them. And be careful to keep the page balanced. Additionally, with almost all of your software available out there today, whether it's Publisher, whether it's Elements or whatever, you can crop out the surrounding material. You can take out the 2x2s and the capitals and the other people that are standing next to the person you want. It makes it easy, and it makes your newsletter look a lot better. Okay, now we're going to go back to Cincinnati publication because this is just excellent as far as putting photos. I don't know how David could have done this article on sea creatures on the Canadian 50-cent pieces without having pictures of them. Just describing them alone just ain't going to hack it. He also does other good montage pictures that make your text look good. And, oh, by the way, you notice he has a nice even break in there so you don't get messed up. The readers know what's coming and when to stop and when to start. So this is my friend Billy from Grand Rapids. He does a nice newsletter. Somebody did a lot of work to put together this cover page, and it shows. It's a nice page. However, I think that this page would be good if maybe you had the obverse and the reverse of a 2-cent piece in here, or a picture of the author of this article. It really would help to break up the whole page of text. Anyway, so this is a good job, but you could add to it, I think. I did an informal survey of a bunch of my members, and one of the things that they enjoyed is hearing about people in the club, people at the ANA, whatever. They want to know, who are all these people? So I started a regular feature of people from the ANA staff uh, or club members. Every month I have a little write-up and whatever. And obviously it would suffer without pictures of the people. So I encourage you to have little notes on your club members that support an article or have done something great. Always include a picture. This page illustrates using pictures along with what they're talked about. This fellow, Ben Costello, one of our members from the Pittsburgh area, he's also one of the directors of the 1715 Fleet Society, and he does a good job, but the pictures add a lot to what it is you're talking about, and if you can put them where they belong in the text, it makes a big difference. Okay, things to avoid. Meeting minutes. So it's okay to put in summaries of key items because you want people to know. I have the secretary of my club. She has a little column called Peggy's 2 cents. And she talks about key things that went on to meetings, key things that were decided, but certainly not the whole meeting minutes. I used to put advertising in my newsletters. But I found that it takes up a lot of real estate. It really didn't buy us much money. So we stopped doing it. For those people who are doing quarterly publications from associations, etc., I understand that you need to have advertising. But for guys doing monthly 2, 4, 8-page things, advertising takes up a lot of space. So avoid it if you can. This is a page from one of our guys. I don't ever hope you do it like this. It's just the readers get lost in this after a while. And it's probably not the thing to do. So avoid it if you can. All right. So I'm obviously talking a lot faster than I wanted to. And I probably let a lot of things slip here. So let me talk a summary for a minute. Determine what your priorities are. You know, what is it you want to do with your newsletter? And build your newsletter to meet your needs. When I say your needs, I mean your club's needs. Because everybody is a little bit different and everybody needs to understand what it is you want to do. The other thing, and I'm not sure that I said this clearly, invest some time to build a template you can use from month to month. If I had to build my newsletter from month to month from scratch, it would take me forever. So we use essentially the same template, the same heading, the same back pages on officers and contacts and meetings, etc., from month to month. Okay. I strongly recommend that you invest a small amount of money, and I'm talking about, $100 to no more than $300 one time to get all of to make doing the presentation, to make doing your newsletter easier for you and much more attractive and easier for your people to read. So I'm hoping that I've answered some questions for you and provided you some interesting stuff. I see I got a couple of questions here. That's good. We'll get to that in a minute. And we're down to the bottom. I went too fast, but please forgive me for that. And let's see what questions you have.
Yeah. So real quick, I'm going to launch the survey in case anybody needs to jump off. So please fill out the survey so we know what we can do better for the future. So a couple questions that have come in. It says, I've always heard that one of the main issues to run a successful newsletter is to find content. How do you solve this issue?
Oh, well, I actually seek to get content to chase articles, to chase profiles, etc., 2 to 3 months ahead of time. And I build a little bank of articles and profiles out ahead of time where I can. Right now, during the pandemic, it's very hard because I don't see the people. I don't look the people in the eye and say, Joe, where's the article that you promised me? Which makes it tough. Occasionally, I have to write an article more than my regular feature to fill in the blanks. I had to do it this month, but it's not easy to do. What else? What can I say about that? There are some things very occasionally that I have to turn down because they don't fit. You get an article about World War II coins that don't talk about coins, you turn it down. But for the most part, it's become easier for me to get articles and content because I keep hammering on it. Hopefully that answers your question. What's the next one, Brianna?
What software do you recommend for PDF editing?
So, you know, I use, what's the name of it? PDF Perfect, but it doesn't really make a difference. When I bought it a few years ago, it cost $100. Today you can get it for, I think, $39.95. But anything that allows you to open up a PDF document and take pieces out will work. I don't have any particular recommendation. What I use works. And that's what you strive for. But certainly, so WinZip has just come out with a PDF software tool for their $39.95. And my guess is they've done a good job doing it. But look around. You can type in Google PDF software and see what you come up with. What's next, Brianna?
Your next question. At what juncture would you recommend a club to move from an e-newsletter to a printed one?
Oh, I've tried to get all electronic newsletter delivery for 5 years, the 5 years that I've been doing this newsletter. And we have, like many clubs, we have a lot of older members that haven't quite moved to the 21st century yet. So I end up sending, we have about 200 members in the club, and a number of them are family members that go along. So every month I distribute 100 newsletters by email and another 50 on hard copy. We try to encourage people to just go all electronic, but it's been impossible for us. Now, we've tried to offer incentives for people to go electronic, discounts on their dues, etc. We just haven't been successful. And I would press for you to do email delivery, all electronic, wherever you can. What juncture? Right now. So, okay, So we're getting more questions.
Yeah. A couple people want to know if they can send you their newsletters for you to review. Would you be willing to share your email for them?
Yes, I would. So it's a very tough address, but it's Phil Vitale, PHILVITALE at MSN.com. If you send me an email with your newsletter, I promise I will get to it, maybe not in a day, but at least within a week or two. So guaranteed, I'd be happy to do that. In fact, I'd like to see you guys, more different people competing and winning awards from the ANA.
I did put your email in the chat, so anybody that doesn't have the chat open, you can see his email. I typed it in there for you as well.
Okay.
Is it possible to get samples of good newsletters? Yeah, is there a possible for good newsletters to be reviewed?
So I do not believe that it's my role to share other people's newsletters. I mean, they share them with me, but that doesn't necessarily give me the right to share them with everybody else. Now, I know that some of my compatriots, David Heinrich shared his newsletter with a number of people, and I'm sure that he might be willing to do that. David's probably on right now, and if he's willing, his newsletter is absolutely fabulous. But other people's newsletters, I don't know that I would share them without their permission. So if somebody wants to ask me to see if I can get permission for them, I would be happy to do that. There's a lot of good newsletters out there, and I can only share what I feel I am allowed to do. So what's next?
That same person asked for these slides. Yes, we're going to put this whole presentation on our website. Give it a couple days to a week and we'll have it on our website so you can review this presentation. How many pages? We are a national club with a quarterly newsletter. Our limit has been established to minimize postal cost.
So my newsletter is 8 pages every month. Okay. And people have bi-monthly newsletters and they have quarterly newsletters. And some people have even gone to 6-month newsletters. What's the right amount? The right amount is how much you need to report on your activities. Remember though, if you're going to put numismatic articles in, you have to have enough space. So we strive to have every month a profile, a member article, reports from the secretary and the treasurer, and what's going on at the ANA, as well as club information. So 8 pages is where I'm at. My next bump up, because we have printed copies, would be 12 pages. And that's too hard for me to do on a monthly basis, but I could if I had enough material. So, so how many pages? I don't know. I don't know how many pages. What is it you need to meet your objectives? I guess that's all I can say. Could you repeat that question again for me, Brianna, so make sure I've answered right?
Let me find it. I think it was just asking, it just said how many pages, and they said if they're a national club with a quarterly newsletter, their limit has been established to minimize postal cost.
Okay, so the question is then priorities of what you want to put in your newsletter. Okay, if you're a national club and you probably have some advertising, etc., how much space do you have to devote to educational issues and club goings on? And it's an allocation issue. I don't know the particulars of your club, so I really can't advise you without seeing. Okay, what's next?
Do you consider a classified section as advertisement?
I do actually, but that's okay. I've seen a number of newsletters that are successfully done that have classified sections. I don't do it because I can't consistently figure out how much space to allocate. Space allocation and layout are the big challenges for a newsletter article. If I have my druthers, I wouldn't put classifieds in. But there are clubs that really are successful doing it. It just adds another area of difficulty to lay out.
Do you publish your newsletters online?
No, I do not. Because our newsletter is part of our membership benefits. Okay? Plus, it has the information like phone numbers and email addresses and other personal information, well, not too much other personal information of the officers. And we were advised that if we put it online on our website, we have a website as well. If we put it online on our website, people with malcontent interests would actually lift things off and spam the officers and directors. So we don't carry the newsletter online. Now, if a club was to call or write me, email me and ask for a copy of the newsletter, I always oblige. Okay, but I just want to make sure it's a legitimate request before I provide it.
Can you repeat the specific software you recommend?
A specific software. I use Publisher. If you've got a Windows 10 platform and you've got Microsoft, you can get Publisher as part of your Office software packages. It is very flexible. My friends who do this use Publisher. So Publisher is the one that I would go with, not to say that it's exclusively the one. I use Photoshop Elements. It's cheap. It's under $100 now. Probably around $80 that you can pick up a copy of that to add, to do a lot of photo editing, plus the software in Windows 10. And I use, I think it's PDF Perfect or Perfect PDF to edit the PDF files. It makes it so much simpler. People submit things to me. I have an article for you, Phil, and it's a PDF package. And of course, when I'm going to lay it out, I want to put the pictures where I want to put the pictures. So I have to break it open, put it into Word or something else, and then play with it. So, but as I said, the PDF world, as far as PDF software, cheaper and better have come out. I think the WinZip PDF Manager is an excellent product, and it's really cheap, like $39.99 or something.
Do you have a separate section in your newsletter specifically to highlight young numismatists?
You know, no, I don't. And the reason I don't, so I have an interesting club. I'll call it interesting. We have about 200 members. And of those 200 members, about 10% are YNs. That's not bad. So we got 20 YNs. But I don't have a formal YN program. So any chance I get, I put in YN related material. If you look at the issues of my newsletter where we have a show, I always have pictures of kids, of course, with their parents' permission. And I always use pictures of our YNs where appropriate. Um, but we have a really tough time soliciting specific YN material to put in the newsletter to make it a regular feature. So I don't, but if you can make it happen, I would encourage it.
Do you charge for your newsletters?
Absolutely not. The newsletters are a benefit of membership, and they, you know, that's what their dues go to that. We don't make any money on dues really. Um, we charge $15 a year, $20 for families, um, and sending out. If you're getting the newsletters by mail, it takes up mailing the newsletters and printing them and mailing them takes every penny of that $15. So it's a benefit of membership. I certainly would encourage everybody to publish it to all of their members for free.
What are the pitfalls to avoid of running a club newsletter?
When you get people that say, pitfalls that say, you have to publish my article exactly the way I give it to you, I'm going to stamp my foot and say, don't do it. You've got to be able to tell people that, hey, I've got only so much space. If you give me four pages of material and I have 2 pages available to print it in, something has to give. Pitfalls. You need to ensure that you have a stream of information from your club officers. You need to ensure that your ANA representative or your district representative and your secretary and your treasurer are going to give you something every month, because you have a responsibility to your members to report on those things. So by not establishing a regular source of information, the pitfall would be doing everything yourself. That's the pitfall. And you can't afford to do everything yourself because that's all you do with your life. But that's the biggest pitfall. And editing things, allowing things to go in that aren't correctly good grammar, good technique for writing without, a lot of times people will write things, won't give you pictures with it. It's just like, picture's worth 1,000 words. You only have 450 words on this page. So how about filling in the other 1,000 words with a picture? So the other pitfall would be allowing people to give you things without anything attached to them.
My club has a newsletter for our adult members and one for youth members. Our youth newsletter is more fun to put together in a lot of ways. Do you have any ideas of where to find article ideas for YNs?
And the answer is no. I don't have ideas put in. Well, actually, I do. But a lot of the information I would take from the ANA websites and build from there. I mean, there's nothing to say that you can't take a big article from the ANA website and encapsulate it, material, sourced from, and say that right up front, and you're okay. And the ANA doesn't have any problem with you plagiarizing some of their material. In fact, I think they encourage it. So I don't have a good source. I'm sorry, I can't tell you except for the ANA website. And if you have a YN director, which is something we lack and something we need to establish. If you have a YN director, that should be your source, your first stop anyway. Next question.
Recommendation for accessing fancy borders for use in Publisher.
So, fancy borders. So in Publisher, I don't have a fancy border. I have dotted lines, the bubbles, etc., and they're layered one thing on top of another. The Grand Rapids Club has got a beautiful border, and I'm sure that they took that off of a like a card maker. There are a number of programs out there that allow you to do greeting cards and allow you to do certificates, etc. That's where I would grab a border from. Okay, you publish the software, you can use, I mean, you purchase the software, you can use it. A lot of times it comes free. My PDF software came free with a sister publishing software that gave me borders and highlights and quarter pieces, etc. I don't use that, but it's there and available if you do. So keep your eyes open. The best source for that is certificate programs and programs to do fancy letters.
Do you do all interviews for your newsletters yourself? And how do you encourage participation?
So interviews, okay. So the articles, the profiles I get are 3 steps. They include 3 things. They include background data from the person. They include a picture. Either I take it or they send me one. And there's a follow-up interview. It's always important when you get something from people and you say, well, when did they do this? Or, filling in the blanks, because people write about themselves and they always forget all the connecting links. So doing an interview, even a short interview, a half an hour's worth or 20 minutes worth, is something I always do myself because I have the background information to use from the start. When I'm writing an article on a coin show, etc., I use my own stuff. But I get quotes from people, if I can. Quotes from Kim, quotes from Brianna, quotes from whoever it is that can talk about it, especially when I'm talking about people. It's always nice to have somebody's boss say, God, Joe is super conscientious. I can always lean on him for everything, or whatever else it is. So yes, I do my own interviews, but the interviews are a small part of what I do.
Do we have to put our information sources in the club newsletter, like the websites and scientific resources?
So yes and no. Okay. If you're doing articles where you are reporting on something that you're taking right out of another source, if you're quoting something, etc., then you should put a citation. Excuse me. I'm talking that much, I need to wet my whistle. So you need to put sources down when you're quoting things or you're using pieces from different publications. If you're just using other sources to build your knowledge to write an article, then the answer is no. Okay, so it's hard to get really hung up on this. If you're writing a really technical article, and you want it to be numismatist quality, you better put a lot of sources in. I occasionally put them when I need to, and I most of the time don't, because I'm not building an article that has a lot of source material.
What is your favorite part of running a club newsletter? Also, how do you continue to create interest in your newsletter?
So my favorite part of doing the newsletter is getting feedback from people saying, wow, I really enjoyed the article on, or it's amazing how, regardless of the fact of whether I publish my newsletter online, we have people in 8 states that are members of the club that get the newsletter. And I'll be talking to some guy in California that I've never met and says, I read your article on blump de blump. I said, really? He said, yeah, I really enjoyed it. So the newsletter gets spread around. So I'll tell the truth, it takes me about 20 hours a month to do the newsletter. That's a good chunk of time. I'm sort of automated about it. If I have to write an article as well, then it takes more time. The satisfaction I get from a newsletter is knowing that people read it and enjoy it. Haven't had anybody come to me and said, boy, you did a crummy job. That would really hurt. But so what was the second piece of that? What was the most, repeat the question.
Your favorite part, let me find it again. Sorry, it doesn't go in. Oh, your favorite part of running a club newsletter and how do you continue to create interest?
So I think we have a good publication and the members actually read it. So it helps that I've won second place a couple of times in the ANA, because people say, you know, right off the bat, it lends a little bit of credibility. Well, my favorite part is getting positive feedback, and that's and actually doing the profiles is my favorite part. Maybe my second favorite part is doing profiles and finding out about people and sharing that with the club membership. Okay.
Next question. Do you archive your club newsletter back issues on a public website, and if so, where?
So the answer is no, because I don't distribute them. I do have them archived. They're on my computer and backed up. So that's an interesting question that I'll address with my board. Because we don't put them on our website, having them archived for anybody to look at, then it's sort of like, well, why don't you push them into your website? So I'll discuss that with my board again, and maybe if I take out some of the personal contact information, we might do that.
Great. Do you have issues with contributors submitting articles in different formats like Word, Google Docs, WordPerfect? Is it still pretty easy to open even without having those software programs to import those words into your format?
So yes, it is easy to open those things. Word will let you get into WordPerfect. The thing that suffers is formatting. But since I'm going to, since I've become very adept at doing that, having a PDF come in, so I get pieces in three parts normally: Word, WordPerfect, and PDF articles, and I convert them all into Word which is pretty simple for me anyway. And then I slice and dice the pictures in the formats to where I want them. It really isn't that tough. It takes a little practice, but it's not tough.
Do you have agreements with other newsletter editors to share content and reprint articles among clubs?
So I don't have any formal agreements. David Heinrich and I have shared profiles and a few articles back and forth. And we haven't done it lately. I'm not sure why, but it was an informal agreement that served us both. And it still might serve us. I guess there's no reason why I wouldn't want to share an article, say, on summer seminar. You know, there's a lot of clubs that don't send people to summer seminar, or they send only one person. And, you know, as long as they're saying, well, this is an article out of the New Mexico club, so, you know, it might be a little bit different. But there's no reason why you can't. I don't have any formal agreements. I would not be opposed to it. And like I said, I've shared things with the Cincinnati Club, and I've used some of their things. And it's worked okay in the past. So we certainly could be able to do that.
What are your thoughts on hot links? I use them quite often to validate the article material and provide members additional information which they can explore further. Why do we not see more of this?
So there's nothing wrong with using hot links, especially if you're talking about an article that's in the public domain. So I just wrote an article on Ben Costello, a profile, and he wrote an article back in September of 2019 for me on the 1715 Fleet Society and the treasure trove of things that have come about from that. And I noted that in my article, but I didn't put a link in because it's not publicly accessible. I haven't put it out there. I've used a couple of links. Obviously, only the people getting it by email are going to be able to grab that link. So I do use them, not a lot, but I do use them here and there. And if you want to refer back to an article on the 1901 Bison Notes, for instance, and you know, for more information, see then put in a hot link. That's a good idea. I use them here and there, not exclusively. It depends on what's being written.
Great. So we have about 2 minutes, so we can answer a couple more questions. But Phil has offered to do a live Q&A with all of you. If you want to participate in that, I'm going to share the link right now to that presentation. You would just get off of this one and jump right onto that one. It's going to be a meeting one so that you can see our faces. We can see you if you'd like to show your face, and you can ask him the question live. So we'll do one more question, and then we'll jump over to that if that's okay. Do you run articles from other newsletters?
Well, as I mentioned before, I have run articles from the Cincinnati Numismatist, but I haven't, other than that, because I just haven't had enough material that I'm seeing. So that is the answer. I have no problem doing it if I have something that my members can use.
Great. Well, thanks again, Phil, so much for your time. We are going to jump over to the live seminar, or excuse me, live question and answer here. Thanks everybody for taking the survey as well. Phil, we have a certificate of appreciation coming to you in the mail since we can give it to you in person. And then the last piece is our next Zoom that we have coming is going to be a tribute to Tiny Cross. If you've ever come to summer seminar, or if you know Tiny Cross, he passed away in March. So we're going to just do a nice tribute for him, and you can bring your pictures, share your stories on that presentation. That one is on our website. It's info@money.org, so you can go on there to register for that one, as well as all the future ones, because we have a lot more coming up in August as well. And we have posted on that same link in that first paragraph, it's going to talk about the previous recordings. This presentation and all the other presentations we've done in the last 2 weeks will be on that link, so get onto there if you missed any of them. So if you're going to jump onto the live one and we didn't get to your question, bring that question with you so you can ask it to Phil in the next few minutes. If you need anything from me, my email is seminars@money.org. And if you come with any questions, you can always send those to me. I can send them to Phil if needed, or you can email him directly as well. So thanks everybody for participating today. We really appreciate it, and have a wonderful day if you're not going to jump on the live. Thank you.